Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 581. Jun Moxie's Real Strategy. Mei Shuayan walked a few more steps and suddenly stopped on a mountain covered with snow. She looked up and said, "The plum flower gets covered by the snow, but its fragrance will not yield." What a good sentence. How did he come up with such a good poem? Was this poem made based on me? Within her line of vision, Mei Shuayan saw a piece of plum flower swelling in the white snow, and it was especially dazzling. The big man beside Xiao Wei Cheng had a temper. He went crazy, taking steps here and there. He was so angry that the nerves in his head loosened and tightened continuously, and he felt a muffling sound in his stomach. He was injured internally. He was suffering. "I am begging you, Master Jun Moxie, please come quickly. It seems like if you do not come, your lady will not come back safely." Below the ground, Jun Moxie began to adjust to his best condition. His eyes did not manage to open. It was still closed. This was because if his eyes were open, he would immediately arouse the attention of the Supreme Masters. He closed his eyes and slowly began to go across a ground of soil until he reached the Supreme Master's body. Once again, Jun Moxie felt a slight pulse. He took a bite and the blood of Yan Huang shot up just like a lighting. Soil opening. Snow opening. Brush. Without any hindrance, the blood of Yan Huang easily penetrated into the Supreme Master's heart. 2 points into the heart. The opening of the sky was unstoppable. The 5 internal organs were destroyed. At the same time, Dan Tian was also damaged, and the internal strength already went up to his throat. It controlled his actions and his voice. Jun Moxie felt a slight tremor and a sharp mental force attack which came along with the sword. Luckily, Jun Moxie screamed. If he was not careful, this sword could have killed him. However, even if it did, he would never have given in and he would have fought back. Rao was successful in controlling his body. However, his mental power was counterattacking him. The final spiritual impact did not cause much trouble for Jun Moxie. Though the final attack was strong and powerful, the Supreme Master lost because he had already lost the will to survive. The long sword retreated back with a "so" sound. Jun Moxie heaved a long sigh. Finally, he successfully killed 3 people, but how did the last master of the supreme powers make a final counterattack even in the last moment of his death, whereas the first 2 masters just died without being able to retaliate? Even though it was a fight of the mental state, it was not to be underestimated. What does this imply? What does it mean? Jun Moxie used his power of opening the sky and infiltrated inside the body of the Supreme Master. Upon reaching Dan Tian, he found something unexpected. There was a blurry nebula, which was apparently destroyed and deformed by his sword. While Jun Moxie was trying to reform the nebula back to its original shape, he could confirm that this nebula was a product from the original body of Dan. This was different from what was said in the comprehension. It was said in the comprehension that Golden Dan was the foundation of Hua Dan, but yet it was a blurry nebula. Why is this so? Being mindful, Jun Moxie hastily left his position and did not stay. He went towards the ambush location, which was the next triangular formation. It was not the time to analyze his plan, but what he needed was to settle it quickly. Amidst the silence, while 30 people were waiting to ambush Mei Shuayan, Jun Moxie was below the ground carrying out his assassination plan. Now, the killer master, Master Jun, had gained experience after killing 3 of the masters. Even if the rest of the masters of the supreme power were stronger than the previous ones, As long as the strategy was good, he could still kill them all. It was a perfect plan. Firstly, Mei Shuayan was to be in the front line defending, preventing the enemies from moving, while Jun Moxie was to kill the people in the dark. This was Jun Moxie's strategy. It was proven that this strategy was useful and the results were brilliant. Mei Shui was standing quietly, just a few feet away from the masters, but she managed to attract their attention. In their eyes, there was no bigger threat than Supreme Mei. As for Jun Moxie, they disregarded him. They believed that he was alone and they could easily destroy him and break him up into 60 different parts. As such, they did not care about where Jun Moxie was. Even if they thought of Jun Moxie, they only questioned why he was not there yet. If Jun Moxie came, Master Mei was also there already. They did not expect Jun Moxie to carry out such a brilliant infiltration plan to assassinate them. However, the ironic thing was, in their negligence, the assassination was ongoing quietly. The person whom they disregarded the most was actually giving them the most losses in terms of the number of deaths. In fact, they did not even notice this happening. Furthermore, the person that they have been waiting for did not even take any action. She only went around and made them wait. They waited just like how a beggar waits for people to give him money. Such an irony indeed. The real strategy of Jun Moxie was to kill people without any traces. Mei Shuayan walked around continuously and her hands started breaking out in cold sweat. Mei Shuayan was not sure what Master Jun was up to. He was still not out after some time. The valley has not even moved a single bit. Was it because it was too difficult for him? Was it because of an accident? Mei Shuayan turned her head over and began heading towards the canyon when suddenly there was a heat sound heard from within the canyon. Everyone stood still. It was not uncommon to face the sound of death. This sound has definitely got to do with someone who faced immense pain at the point of death, but could not let his sound aloud. This sound could only be made when a trachea is blocked and when a strong energy is emitted before death. The only people who could make such a sound were 200% dead. They would not be able to come back. What was happening? What exactly was going on? Xiao Wei Cheng's face changed and he felt something amiss. He could not hide his body anymore and his body began to swell. As he laid on the ground, the black tip of a sword came out and went back into the ground without a trace. The ground restored back to its original shape. The effect of the sword was fast, but Xiao Wei Cheng could not see not the effects. He only felt that his heart was uncomfortable. It was as if a sword pierced him. His heart was already damaged. If he noticed, he would have discovered that the black sword came out of his left chest. The matter of life and death came across in a moment. Mei Shuayan laughed coldly while looking at the half-dazed Xiao Wei Cheng and said, "It was you. Xiao Wei Cheng of the Supreme Powers. All of you have been in ambush for quite a period of time, right? You people from the 3 holy places cannot wait to kill me." As Xiao Wei Cheng opened his mouth to speak, his atrium was excruciating in pain and he suddenly looked up and spit out blood which relieved the pressure on his heart and he began floating down. Xiao Wei Cheng was unable to answer Mei Shuayan. The pain in his atrium was definitely because someone hurt his heart. How did he get injured? Was there anyone else who were injured? What was the meaning behind the dying humming sound? Mei Shuayan continued to stay in the canyon and did not leave. Was there any other trap? Jun Moxie turned over to look into the canyon and he said, "The ambush is no longer meaningful. Let us all gather to welcome Supreme Mei." The ambush was indeed meaningless. The rest of the people were not sure why Xiao Wei Cheng exposed himself and why he even vomited blood midair. Everyone was curious. When Xiao Wei Cheng summoned the Supreme Masters, they came out to meet him. The snow rolled and a person dressed in white suddenly appeared. Standing in the midst of the snow, he faced Mei Shuayan with a murderous look in his eye. However, Xiao Wei Cheng's face had changed. His face had turned as white as snow, and his lips were trembling. The so-called Supreme Master's charisma was no longer existent. He counted 1, 2, 5, 8, 12, 14. He counted till 14 and he was unable to continue. There was no one else remaining. Even though he knew that he could not have counted wrongly, he began recounting and it was still 14. Including him, there were only 15 Supreme Masters. Where did the other 15 go? Where did they go? Xiao Wei Cheng shouted. Where are the rest? Everyone come out. Quickly show yourselves. As he shouted, he felt his body turning cold. There was no way the people at the bottom could not have heard his voice. If they heard, they would have come out immediately. Why are they not here yet? Xiao Wei Cheng hoped that the other masters were still in ambush. He understood that his hope was futile. With Xiao Wei Cheng having a big drink, the snow began falling onto the mountains and the ground shook. However, no one came out. Xiao Wei Cheng's face began changing. His white face began to turn pale, nearing death. He suddenly started to fly. There was lightning across the sky. When he clapped his hands, the snow on the ground began flying and it was captivating. While the snow was flying, there were 3 strong bodies that came up together with his strong snow power. Then, he began falling. Xiao Wei Cheng was splashed with cold water and his whole body began to freeze. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 582. If I say you are guilty, you are guilty. Plopping sounds were heard as 3 bodies fell on the snow-covered ground, sending the accumulated snow into the air as they were flipped over to show their faces. Their eyes were filled with anger and their faces scrunched in pain, but they still could not move. 1 above supreme level. 2 supremes. A total of 3 top-notch experts had died silently. Such highly skilled experts did not even make a sound when being killed. The Supreme Gold City's 15 experts' expressions immediately changed. Xiao Wei Cheng did not stop and flew rapidly from one place to another, discovering another 3 corpses. Then to another place, another 3 frozen corpses. 15 corpses were discovered in a row. Xiao Wei Cheng suddenly stopped moving and stood in the valley as the 15 corpses were displayed around him. He was in a daze as the corner of his mouth was twitching and turned as pale as a ghost. Suddenly, Xiao Wei Cheng roared and yelled towards the sky. No one knew what he yells meant, but it seemed like an unconscious crying roar. A devastating cry. That meaningless roar and yell represented the extreme grief the leader of the Supreme Gold City. Who is it? If you are still a gentleman, stand out now. Xiao Wei Cheng was fuming mad and his Xian energy was all over the place. The crown of his head exploded and his entire head of white hair flew all over the place. He aggressively roared again. Who brought up such a child? How dare you use such a shameless underhand method for an ambush? Stand out now to die. A stream of fresh blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He was so extremely devastated such that his yells shook the entire world, sending echoes back. At that moment, Xiao Wei Cheng was so upset he no longer could be bothered with any gentlemanliness. He just scolded all he wanted, but the surrounding was quiet, not giving him any response. He breathed and yelled again. What a butcher! Cold-blooded executioner! If you have the guts, come out. How are you a hero by just relying on ambush? Come out. There was still not a single sound. Xiao Wei Cheng's anger filled him. He could not help but let out a never-ending scream filled with devastation, filling the surroundings, causing the surrounding accumulated snow to vibrate and suddenly neatly fall from the mountain summit. The roaring sound was as though the end of the world was arriving. Under the vibrations produced from his long scream, several mountains simultaneously experienced avalanches. Waves of snow rolled downwards with a natural might, causing a big scene as though the entire world has been swallowed. The snowy haze cleared out and brought about 100 feet of waves rolling in. All the experts ran to seek shelter, leaving only Xiao Wei Cheng to not dodge or escape as he allowed the snow to bury him. As the avalanche subsided slightly, Xiao Wei Cheng let out another long yell from under the snow and emerged from beneath, rising into mid-air, and letting out a devastating scream. The corpses of 15 experts were totally buried under the accumulated snow. Mei Shuayan also witnessed the scene anxiously. She never thought that the plans Jun Moxie explained could achieve such glorious battle results. This was too surprising. If they spent days and nights fighting, based on Jun Moxie's abilities and his weird skills, Mei Shuayan would also believe that he could achieve this. However, to kill 10 Supreme and 5 above Supreme experts continuously within 2 hours without a sound. This was a miracle. Outside the valley, on the way, Jun Moxie panted as he ran over as he carefully avoided the waves of snow along the way. He yelled, "Wifey! Wifey, are you okay? Wifey? You scared me to death. Just now I heard someone yelling, causing avalanches. And before I could understand what was going on, I was so shocked. I almost peed in my pants." Mei Shuayan did not know to be angry, laugh or be shocked, and she reprimanded, "Shut up. Don't be such a disgrace." When Xiao Wei Cheng landed, he landed exactly opposite Mei Shuayan, about 80 feet away. It was still such that one was in the valley, one was outside. He stood there quietly with a scarily gloomy expression, and his eyes stared fiercely at Mei Shuayan like how a wolf spotted blood, emitting green light while he grinded his teeth. Filled with extreme hatred, he articulated, "Supreme Mei, great moves. You are really, how evil moves." Evil moves? Mei Shuayan frowned. What evil moves? Did I do anything? Isn't what's happening you're doing? Xiao Wei Cheng suddenly wept in a loud, tearing roar. 15 of my brothers whom I have interacted with for 100 years have been murdered silently. Supreme Mei, you are too evil. Such shameless evil doings. How can you be considered a leader of TNFA? What's done has been done, but how can you have no guts to admit your doings? Isn't it too beneath your status? Mei Shuayan snickered and said, "Xiao Wei Cheng, how are you the king of the Supreme Gold City? What a joke for you to say such things. I said I haven't done anything, and that means I have not done anything. You dare to question me? I want to ask you, with all 30 of you in ambush here, if it is not to attack me, then what are all of you doing?" Xiao Wei Cheng strongly gave a sound of disregard and looked at Mei Shuayan fiercely, not saying anything. "You can fool anyone but me. You have arranged such an evil trap to attack me. Do you think it is fine? Several people on your side died, and you are saying that I am shameless and evil? Xiao Wei Cheng, how shameless of you. I really suspect you do not have or brain, or mold has grown in your brain." Mei Shuayan looked at him in disdain. "Words like shameless and despicable can only be used to describe you. I really can't think of anyone else like you. I shall not argue with you further." Ask whoever did this to step out now. Xiao Wei Cheng said scarily. I am going to make him pay. Senior. Xiao Wei Cheng. I understand now. Your logic is that only you guys can kill other people, even if it by arranging such evil traps. If others counterattack you guys based on your trap, then they are despicable? Is this what you mean? Jun Moxie chipped in a condescending manner towards Xiao Wei Cheng. Of course. Xiao Wei Cheng lifted his head and said, whatever we, the Supreme Gold City, does, it is for our people and for the good of everyone. If you are our enemy, you must be insane. Evil to no end. All our actions are upright and honest. If you counterattack us, you are morally polluted and standing on the opposite side against humans. And that means you only have one fate: death. Ha ha ha, what a joke. Jun Moxie laughed out loud and said, you also consider killing alliance mates for no reason and craftily trapping people as upright and honest? For the world and for the people. What kind of means can we not use? Even if it is more despicable means, to achieve our great goals, we will do it with no guilt. Xiao Wei Cheng said uprightly. What kind of logic is this? How shameless can you be? Do you guys from the Supreme Gold City have any sense of shame? No. You guys from the Supreme Gold City definitely have half your face skin stuck on the other half. One half thick-skinned, one half faceless. Jun Moxie scolded loudly and spat saliva at them. Xiao Wei Cheng righteously turned to stare down at Jun Moxie, pointed at him and coldly said, Jun Moxie, don't you dare think that you can act so unlawfully just because you have an expert as your master. If you offend me, I will make you bleed. You should know that there's some things you cannot say, some things you have no rights to do. Now, shut your stinky mouth. Jun Moxie disregarded him, rolled his eyes and said, what if I don't? Xiao Wei Cheng breathed in deeply and suddenly turned again to look at Mei Shuiyan. Supreme Mei, you are quite a recognized expert. Today, I admit that I wanted to ambush you, but now, it is impossible. I only have one question for you. Who did this? Even without those who died in today's battle, we have more than enough participants for the heavenly battle. You should know what this means. His eyes focused intensively on Mei Shuiyan as though they were about to spit fire. Mei Shuiyan ignored his words and said, I have said already. I did not do anything so naturally. I wouldn't know anything. You guys probably betrayed one another. How would I know who it was? Are you going to pin every single death in this world on me? What a joke. Xiao Wei Cheng. If you want to start a battle, hurry. If not, scram. Participate in the heavenly battle? I also participate in it. Why are you targeting me? Xiao Wei Cheng stared deathly at Mei Shuiyan and ignored what she said. Out of a sudden, he roared loudly. Is it Chu Chi-hun? Chu Chi-hun? Mei Shuiyan and Jun Moxie looked at each other perplexingly. What logic was this? Why was Chu Chi-hun dragged into this? Master Jun was exceptionally displeased. How simple-minded. Was there no one else other than Chu Chi-hun who could kill people? Why did they always think of him? Couldn't they analyze it further and realize that it was me, the evil lord, Jun Moxie, Master Jun, who killed them? However, when Xiao Wei Cheng said that, the other 14 people from the Supreme Gold City gave off a resounding agreement expression. Yes. In this world, if anyone could assassinate so many experts, then it had to be Chu Qi-hun, not anyone else. Even the leader of the three holy cities could only directly fought to kill these experts and definitely could not kill them invincibly. This simply was not their expertise. Although everyone thought that perhaps Chu Chi Hun could not do this and even was lacking highly, there was really no one else other than this supreme killer in this world. To come and go without a trace and kill with no evidence were Chu Chi Hun, the supreme killer's signature tactics. Xiao Wei Cheng grinded his teeth, crumpled his face, then roared, "I have already carefully checked their wounds." Such fine wounds ensured that blood would not flow out. Their internal organs were completely destroyed. Other than Chu Chi Hun, that murderer's Autumn Dew invincible sword and heart-destroying 5 poison palm, no one else could inflict such wounds. Do you guys still want to deny it? I know. It must be him. Right. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 583. Oppressing them with vigor. Jun Xie could not help but laughed. I say, what does this got to do with Chu Chi Hun? Do you guys in three holy cities always accuse others without evidence? I do not know that killer and I have never even seen him before. What kind of speculation is this? These are just fabrications based on nothing. Jun Xie chuckled while saying, Chu Chi Hun is a good person. Ha 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 ha. This is such a joke. Xiao Wei Cheng laughed mockingly with a look of displeasure. A cold-hearted dictator like him is full of sin. His 2 hands reek of blood. The only thing he recognizes is money. If you give him some money, he will even kill his own dad. How can you still say he's a good person? Jun Xie, can you still distinguish the right from wrong? Do you still have any justice in you? I accused him. Jun Xie. Just from this sentence, it revealed your intentions. If you are not involved with him today, would you still help him exonerate? Xiao Wei Cheng resented, it is definitely Chu Chi Hun without a doubt. From now onwards, I, the Supreme Master of Golden City, will treat Chu Chi Hun as a foe. Jun Xie and Mei Shuayan looked at each other in dismay. They could not believe that there was such an unreasonable person in this world. Just like this, he forced the killer master to be involved. What is this? If the killer master, Chu Chi Hun, come to hear of it, he probably will spurt out a mouth of blood. Why is it that I have to carry all the accusations? Is there still justice in this world? I should not be called killer master but rather scapegoat master. Jun Xie could still vividly remember that when he was tailing the cold-blooded Lei Wu Bei had once pretended to be the killing master, Chu Chi Hun. Could it be that this top killer has the same strategies as me? We just don't know which is the more brilliant one and who is the real killing master. Mei Shuayan laughed sarcastically. Xiao Wei Cheng, I pity you. I pity the supreme masters in Golden City. You people have such shallow knowledge and experience, making rash judgments and a fool out of yourselves. Xiao Wei Cheng laughed grimly and with a face full of resentment. He scanned the area and shouted, Chu Chi Hun. Since you have the guts to murder people, why don't you have the guts to face me? Jun Xie, who had been standing still, chuckled. Such irony. Mei Shuayan snorted and walked forward. Currently, Golden City only left 5 masters beyond supreme level and 10 supreme masters. Mei Shuayan could not be bothered with the remaining strength, as even if she could not kill all of them, she would still be able to escape easily without any injuries. Furthermore, she had Jun Xie by her side to support her, which made her even more fearless. Therefore, Mei Shuayan burst in without any hesitation. 2 of the supreme masters from Golden City blocked her and sternly said, Please halt for a moment, Supreme Mei. We have not clarified everything. Mei Shuayan icily replied. Have things not been clarified? I don't think so. Get lost. The two supreme masters raged, and suddenly two long swords appeared like a phantom, leapt in the air and aimed towards Mei Shuayan. They were already enraged by the death of their comrades. Listening to the rude exclamation of Mei Shuayan aggravated them even more. Without any warning, they used their top-notch skill in fencing, combined their body into the sword and attacked. Mei Shuayan flicked her wrist and a long sword appeared in her hand. With a shout, the sword illuminated. The whole sky was suddenly covered by fireworks. Her sword radiated around like lightning, facing them head-on. The two of them were being ungrateful, hence Mei Shuayan did not bother giving them a chance. Since you combined your body and sword into one, then I will use my sword to break you up into two. Once the sword was brought out to kill, it would show no mercy. Xiao Wei Cheng bellowed. Stop. After seeing 15 dead bodies, Xiao Wei Cheng had decided to dispel on the idea of killing Mei Shuayan. He knew that with their current strength, attacking Mei Shuayan would be asking for death. Even if the remaining 15 Supreme Masters were to give in their all they can do is make a scratch on her. That was if they were lucky enough. For now, Xiao Wei Cheng only wanted to catch the culprit that killed his brother, Chu Chi Hun. As for Mei Shuayan, he would leave it to Dunshire Deity Palace and Sea of Fantasy Blood to handle. Therefore, he did not have any plans to intercept them. Seeing the two Supreme Masters acting recklessly and attacking Mei Shuayan, Xiao Wei Cheng was shocked and instantly shouted for them to stop. But it was too late. Monarch Jun reminded Mei Shuayan the right way of a nobleman, which was to not have any mercy. A long siren was made and her sharp sword burst into lights. Suddenly, two cries and shattered sounds were heard. All of a sudden, it was raining blood and the two swords shattered into pieces. Just like that, the two Supreme Masters disappeared from the world. Mei Shuayan gently landed on the ground. There were no stains on her white top, no signs of blood at all. She had an aloof expression and was full of murderous aura. Xiao Wei Cheng wanted to speak up, hoping to alleviate the tense atmosphere since attacking her now would not be a good idea. The plan to sneak up on her and attack had failed thoroughly. They had already lost half of their men and he had no intentions to continue the fight. On the other hand, Mei Shuayan, who had already taken the life of two Supreme Masters, is on the peak of her killing spree, and hiding near her was a killing master, Chu Chi Hun, who may do a surprise attack any time. The situation was very bad for the masters from Golden City. Before Xiao Wei Cheng had a chance to speak, Mei Shuayan turned her head around and stared at him ruthlessly. Her charisma grew with the wind as she became more intimidating. With a majestic grandeur that belonged only to kings and the power to decide their death, she daunted the 13 Supreme Masters from Golden City. At that moment, it showed the exceptional svelte of Mei Shuayan that allowed her to be the number one in Tianfa City. Under her intimidating pressure, Xiao Wei Cheng held back his tongue and swallowed the words that he was about to say. He felt the cold glance of her seeing through his heart and capturing his soul. For a moment, Xiao Wei Cheng felt the chills and forgot about his original intention. In front of him was the two dead bodies of his subordinates. But at that moment, Xiao Wei Cheng totally forgot about his revenge. Behind him stood 12 of his other subordinates, but again, at that moment, Xiao Wei Cheng totally forgot about them. He only knew that in front of him stood Mei Shuayan, who only need to raise her hand to bury him into the deep snow. Mei Shuayan stood still and gazed icily at him before saying, Xiao Wei Cheng, you should stop speaking for now. If you speak another word, I will bury the 13 of you here forever. Do you want to bet? If I dare or not, and if I can or not? Mei Shuayan spoke lightly and gently as if she was just saying something that happened in the past. But what was hidden in her words caused them to tremble with fear. Dare or not? Can or not? What level of aggressiveness is this? In front of her bravura and power, even the blizzard seemed to listen to her and stopped in midair. Of course, even though Mei Shuayan's abilities were astonishing, but she still did not have the capabilities to control nature. Whatever they felt was just a delusion. The blizzard had not stopped. However, everyone could not feel it because the only thing they could feel then was the terrifying aura of Mei Shuayan. As deep as the ocean, as imposing as the mountain. Xiao Wei Cheng's forehead was full of cold sweat. He tried to assemble his spirit, consciousness, soul and cultivation to confront the terrifying charisma of Mei Shuayan. He tried to escape from her frightening spirit but failed. Mei Shuayan glanced at him before she mockingly laughed. She turned her head towards Jun Moxie and said, "Let's go." Jun Moxie chuckled and speedily walked towards her. Both of them strolled elegantly side by side into the canyon. The 13 supreme masters behind them were all one of the strongest people in their city. They just needed to take a leap to reach Jun Moxie and Mei Shuayan. But none of them made a move. Seeing the couple that was walking further away from them, everyone felt more confused. Was the gap between their abilities so big? How can it be? Previously, when the 10 masters beyond supreme level gathered and attacked Mei Shuayan, she was still being merciful and did not have the intention to kill them, but all of them were still heavily injured and she managed to escape. The Mei Shuayan today was not as merciful as the past and she did not hesitate to kill them. The sad part was that they now only left 5 masters beyond supreme level and 10 supreme masters. With this amount of strength left and with their strategies all exposed, they do not have any chance to kill Mei Shuayan. In fact, the chance of all of them being killed was higher. When a nobleman decides not to be bullied anymore, the people who set him up would definitely face a horrible ending. Furthermore, this nobleman had such strong abilities. Whatever just happened had proven this fact. Mei Shuayan and Jun Moxie had slowly disappeared into the distance. The blizzard got stronger and heavier. As the wind blew, Xiao Wei Cheng felt his face got colder, but no matter how cold it was, it could not compare to his frozen heart. "Let's all go." Xiao Wei Cheng sighed. The master beyond supreme level hung his head low as he walked. In an instant, the supreme master of the 3-pearl throne in Golden City, aged by a few more years. Even his back that used to be tall and straight, stooped lower. "Xiao Wangzhua, what about the bodies of our dead brothers?" An old master with a white beard asked sorrowfully as he looked at Xiao Wei Cheng and waited for a response. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 584. A smell belonging to Evil Jun. Xiao Wei Cheng heaved a sigh and he looked at the corpses on the snow with disappointment. He closed his eyes and said, "This place is remote and inaccessible. For the time being, just bury the bodies here. Come out and bury them." It was a matter of time before this day came. "But my king, we should never let Mei Shuayan off like this." The old man with the white beard bit his teeth and his eyes started shedding tears. With resentment on his face, he said, "King Xiao, the bones of our comrades are not cold." "Bones are not cold?" Xiao Wei Cheng looked at him and said, "The weather is like that. Why are the bones not cold? Why are you saying this now? When Venerable Mei was here just now, why did you not say this?" If you are so warm-blooded, why did you not rush forward to help your comrades get revenge? The two have probably not gone too far. If you really have the heart to avenge your comrades, you can chase them now to get revenge. As the ruler in command, I grant you the permission to get revenge. Do you dare or not? The face of the old man with the white beard turned all red with anger. His eyes widened and he shouted, "King Xiao! What do you mean by that? Do you think that you had a good reputation just now? Do you think that revenge for the other comrades concerns only me? You asked if I dare to get revenge? If I am alone, even if I manage to catch up with them, I am incompetent against them. Then is there any use in chasing them? You also know that you are incompetent? Then why did you ask me? I did all this for the sake of Great Gold City. You still want to get your feelings involved at this moment? Useless." Xiao Wei Cheng was furious and he said, "You and I are both well aware of the consequences of an attack. Others who survived are not aware. I brought all of you out of the Golden City not to bury all of you here. Yet, you are here questioning me on why I am not fighting back against Venerable Mei? You useless bum. Do you not understand? Why are you shouting at me even till this moment? There are people left behind at the elusive land of immortals, an illusory ocean of blood waiting. We already lost 17 people. 17 experts. If we continue to hold on any longer here, what will the consequences be? Have you turned foolish? If the Golden City is destroyed, do we let the other two holy lands easily get taken and let them rule over our heads? Seriously? I knew that you were foolish. But can you please take the big picture into consideration? The old man with the white beard seemed like a deflated balloon and he knelt on the ground with two hands covering his face and cried, "For my comrades. And because of my cowardice. Send forth the command. Send the whole world to search for the killer of the Supreme Masters." Xiao Wei Cheng inhaled a deep breath and his head shook. He tried hard to control his emotions. But the more he tried to control his emotions, the more his voice became to tremble. "Put in your best effort to kill those cockroaches, at all costs. If we let Chu Chi Hun know about this, I am afraid he will spit out blood. Even if the Supreme Masters do not chase and kill him, he would die of depression." Yes. Everyone agreed in unison. Huge snow began flying and another 17 graves appeared in this spacious and empty canyon, quietly forming a mountain behind. Xiao Wei Cheng and the others waited in tears and sorrow. One by one, their whole body started trembling and they bit their teeth with anger and sorrow. However, they were at a loss and did not know what to do. They walked away in vain but kept looking back. The snow had buried the traces they had left between the heavens and the earth. It was desolate. The snow that fell from the sky covered the grave that had no tombstone and the wind continued to blow. The land was a flat snowfield and there were no traces of blood. It was as if nothing had happened. The disciples of Jiang Hu died under the sword of the martial arts swordsman, once the strong, the glory, the world and the commander of the rivers and lakes. Now, they only left a bunch of lusts. Furthermore, they could only leave a position and could not write their names, for they had too many enemies, and they may come to settle their grudges. Who can be excluded from this kind of ending in the next 1,000 years? Shui Yan, you were so charismatic just now. When can I have ever be like you? It would be so cool. Jun Moxie giggled. Then, he used his strength to catch up with Mei Shuiyan and said, "You just stood there in 13. A whole 13 of the experts were afraid to move because of you. So cool, ha ha ha. 1 out of the 3 holy lands actually got scared, so funny. You are underestimating the Supreme Masters from the Golden City, they were not scared out of their wits. It was just their misfortune. Mei Shuayan laughed and said, all this time, the strength of the three holy lands were balanced. Their strength was in the middle. Now the Golden City has lost so many experts. They would not be able to take it. However, with their remaining strength, if they were to engage in a fight with me, I would have to pay a huge price. But this would make it easier for the other two holy lands are to defeat me. They will not be willing to let their city be destroyed. They are letting us go as they want us to go and destroy the elusive land of immortals and illusory ocean of blood too. Hence, they are not taking any action against us. They would rather tolerate it. Let me think. But after all, they are incompetent. If they felt that they stood a good chance against us, they would have taken action already. Other than the disaster, it is because of your capabilities that they have not taken any action yet. If I knew this was coming, I would have destroyed the elusive land of immortals and illusory ocean of blood. However, the Golden City already lost its reputation. They do not even have the courage to start a war anymore. This is the biggest weakness of Xiao Wei Cheng. Jun Moxie laughed and plucked his eyebrows and said, this will be his nemesis. Whenever I see him, I will bring this matter up to him, ridicule him and break his state of mind. I will make him angry and cause him to die out of anger. Jun Moxie smiled coldly and smiled, saying, this matter must be reported to Xiong Kai Shan. This may be a weapon to defeat Xiao Wei Cheng. There will be a time where both will face off with each other. Mei Shuayan's eyes brightened and she said, not bad. You humans are very sly. She looked at Jun Moxie and said, you were very different this time. Really? Did I become more heroic? Do you feel like hugging this heroic prince? This price is very educated. Jun Moxie said with a proud face. I am saying the truth. After the assassination, your body gained energy. Mei Shuayan looked into his eyes and said, you are really different compared to the past. I feel that the energy was intentionally hidden. When it comes to the critical time, it would then reappear. Jun Moxie stood still and smiled, saying, what? Mei Shuayan suddenly stopped walking and said, right. It was this feeling. Just now, when you laughed, there was a weird smell. She twitched her eyebrows and began thinking and said, very cold, very indifferent, yet very dangerous, but the murderous aura was different from normal people. Your bones are thirsty for blood. A dangerous smell. Jun Moxie began laughing out loud. But he knew in his heart that Mei Shuayan's feeling was absolutely correct. This assassination gave him wonderful memories. The familiar movement, familiar touch, familiar ambience, familiar emotions. The moment he striked, Jun Moxie thought that he went back to his previous life. He became the assassination lord again. He killed the corrupt officials in the city, the traitors abroad. The powerful Xie Jun. King Xie Jun. After assassinating the 15 supreme masters, Jun Moxie felt the excitement of killing. This killing was not killing. This was the killing of the assassination. The killing of the evil lord. But it was not the killing of the monarch. After much thoughts, Jun Moxie heaved a big sigh. Now, do not let people see through you. Whether it is outsiders, or your relatives, friends, no exceptions. Mei Shuayan quietly accompanied him and suddenly laughed, saying, sometimes, you seem like a gangster, but at times, you also seem like a cold warrior. Sometimes, you seem like a poet. I still cannot understand how you have so many personalities and how did you even come? And how do you switch around? If it was another person, I am afraid their spirit would have collapsed a long time ago. Jun Moxie laughed and he looked at a distance, saying, "This is nothing. It is just an adjustment of myself. It is not amazing. I am originally like this. I have to be." For a period of time when the Jun family was overturned, I did not showcase my powers. When the Jun family became more stable, my hands began to be contaminated with blood. Jun Moxie laughed and said, "After a person experiences assassination, you will carry some things on your body or you will experience a weird feeling unconsciously. I call this feeling murderous aura. The more people you kill, the stronger this feeling gets. Especially if you meet a stranger. It will cause the other people to get scared. This makes it easy for you to get exposed not only to your relatives and friends. Ultimately, you will need to find a way to prevent yourselves from getting exposed." Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 585. Secondly, it is to remove the ill feelings that have manifested within. With these ill feelings, having the intention to injure and kill others is paving the way to your own death. Experts can sense these ill feelings. So, to be a successful killer, you have to look even more ordinary than ordinary men and women on the outside. Those who have a murderous look and are putting up a cold front are not worth paying attention to. The way I release stress and manage my ill feelings is different from the others. It depends on your character, whether you are someone cynical or someone living life frivolously. All in all, as long as I am able to release stress, I will make a successful balance. It doesn't matter how designed is the tactic. A design tactic to release stress allows the killer to be aware of the opponent's flaws. It is the opponent's deadly flaw. So, the type of killer who we can identify at the first look is no different than a fool. Those who form the stereotypical impression of killers, having a murderous look and appearing stern, are a bunch of retards. They are idiots whose stupidity knows no bounds. Jun Moxie laughed. But I am confident that nobody will recognize that I am a killer when I'm not killing. Furthermore, I am a super killer. For this matter, I think I am successful. This foundation is built on the fact that I am a carefree, dandy scoundrel. Do you understand me when I put it this way? No, I don't understand. And you are making it harder to understand. Shui Mei Yen furrowed her brows. Reasonably, I can understand and comprehend the killers, whom you mentioned, possess a murderous look. But the one thing that I can't understand is, how are you a killer? And a super killer? Why do you always look at problems from the perspective of a killer? You are obviously a prince of a noble family, being fed with a silver spoon. And you are only 18 this year. Your experiences as a noble prince is seen by everyone. How does all these make you a killer? Jun Moxie was speechless. A while ago, I was happily talking and spilling out everything. How can I be so forgetful? How do I explain this time? If I kill someone before, doesn't that make me a killer? Jun Moxie forcefully reasoned his thought and cleverly switched the subject topic. Shui Yan, based on your opinions, should we move on at full speed? Or should we just be comfortable and take our time? If we move on at full speed, we should be able to take the lead and be in front of Xiao Wei Cheng and his people. If we go slower, I'm afraid that they will take over us. By then, how do we go about resolving it? Mei Shui Yan spitefully rolled her eyes at him. She knew that he was changing the subject topic, but she did not expose him, and continued on. This time, Great Golden City has incurred a great loss. Based on their usual way of open strife and veiled struggle, I don't think they will report the actual situation to the ones taking over. They may even misinform and misguide them. Isn't that better? Isn't this favorable and giving us a chance? Jun Moxie had a laugh, thinking to himself. Chance? What chance? Mei Shuayan was really smart. She understood what Jun Moxie meant instantly when he asked. You mean, pretend to get hurt? That's right. Hide your true ability so that your opponent will be complacent and then deceptively, but comfortably secure the win. These are the true words of a champion. Jun Moxie patiently and sincerely advised. When, out of the many accidental escapes, you surprise your opponent with a deadly attack at the crucial moment, you will then feel a greater sense of accomplishment. Ha! You humans are so sly. Mei Shuayan laughed. Here is, once again, another mountain's opening. Although it was not too steep, but it was the only road ahead. This was no doubt another perfect location to ambush. At the moment, elusive Land of Immortals leader Ning Wuqing was standing at the valley's crossing. Wearing a snow-white robe, his long hair was blowing off his face. He had a face of righteousness and outstanding divine spirit. Behind him, there were 28 ultimate experts in 2 rows, quietly sitting behind a tall mountain. Surprisingly, they had no intentions to hide their movements, only allowing the mountain to block them. For these experts, it was easy for their knowledge and observations to go undetected, which felt like hiding from the wind. When Ning Wuqing thought of Xiao Chengwei who just walked past, he gloatingly gave 3 laughs. Great Golden City had currently gathered 30 people, 30 ultimate masters. But after the big battle, there were only 13 remaining, with the leader Xiao Chengwei badly injured. Although he tried to disguise his emotions, but his pale white face was an indication that the battle was interpreted to be a fierce one. The more pathetic the opponents were, the better we would feel. Thumbs up to you. The more miserable they were, the more advantage we would get. Ning Wuqing pretended to show concern through words, but was actually inquiring on the battle situation, only met with Xiao Wei Cheng's ill remarks. Wait till you see Venerable Mei, then you will understand. Wishing you success for the battle. And he rushed off soon after. Ning Wuqing felt really good. Is it a must for old madam to see Venerable Mei in order for her to understand? It was actually quite clear as of now. You had lost a whole bunch of people. Although Venerable Mei's skills was exceedingly good. But to think of a strategy or even a tactic for the entire group to come out unscarred was impossible. Also, it was no doubt that the injury would be terribly serious. The sacrifice from 5 Beyond Supremes and the death of 10 Beyond Supremes. Even the winner of Sanxing Wangzhua, Xiao Wei Cheng, was badly hurt. In return for such a big price paid, there would be no excuse but to see Mei Shuayan's badly injured as well. If not, there would be no logic to it and it would be a joke. If we were to return to the past, old madam and her people were almost killed by 10 people. That had happened in the past. What about now? I had the military might, backed up by a well-trained army, conditioning for the next battle. On the other hand, Venerable Mei was badly injured, weak and worn out. After Ning Wuqing surveyed the terrain, he realized that it was pointless to plant an ambush and it would even lose elusive Land of Immortals' might and magnanimity. The place was not small and there were plenty of opportunities for fast-packed actions and tactics. We just needed an ambush till we see Mei Supreme. With her poorly injured body and having to defend the attacks from these people, there was no doubt that Gai Shi Qigong would be left in my hands. No wonder the gaze that Xiao Wei Cheng gave to old madam before he left was oddly strange. So that was a combination of jealousy and hate. Hence, Ning Wuqing was relieved. There was nothing to worry about anymore. If he could, under his lead, succeed to kill Venerable Mei. Then, there would not be any big concern regarding whether Yue Ban was dead. Furthermore, to me, it would mean removing a competitor. This was simply a proof that the gods were on my side. Reflections of people from the two sides could be seen as they were gradually approaching. Mei Shuayan and Jun Moxie were gradually approaching. Once Ning Wuqing waved his hands, everyone momentarily hid themselves. Ning Wuqing stood behind a rock, calm and composed, staring coldly at the two, observing them closely. Finally, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It can be seen that Jun Moxie was not injured. How was the natural, less competent Jun Moxie able to please the Supreme Masters? But he had a good mentor and therefore, no one would dare to lay a hand on him. Mei Shuayan seemed to look perfectly normal. There was not a single scar on her whole body, and even her clothes were white bristle and her face was rosy red. But Jun Moxie would time to time looked at her in concern, while he was at the side. He looked worried. It was obvious that Jun Moxie had purposely slowed down his pace. This would then count as reasonable. Based on how Mei Shuayan carried herself, no matter how serious her injuries were, she would not have lost composure on the outside. This was where the dignity of the ultimate master lies. This matter could not be changed. If Mei Shuayan came with shabby clothes, pale face and scars on her entire body, Ning Wuqing would have otherwise suspected if her injuries were part of an act. Only under such composed situation that he would be able to expose the flaws using his sharp razor eyes. Then he would be able to believe. The woman who was prestigious for her entire life had really gotten herself injured. If she was not injured or had not sustained a comparable degree of injuries, based on her capability, why would Jun Moxie be so concerned and worried? At this time, Ning Wuqing was heartily assured. The two of them had already reached the mountain's opening. Venerable Mei, our paths have crossed, and we finally meet. After such a long time, hope that you are well. Ning Wuqing laughed loudly, his white clothes flowing. Standing on a rock, his sharp razor eyes beamed with smiles, looking at the man and woman at the front, a few feet away. It was certain that everything was under control. Jun Moxie and Mei Shuayan stopped moving suddenly. Shui Mei Yan looked at Ning Wuqing coldly, suddenly laughed. Ning Wuqing, you really haunt me constantly. Do you really think that I will let you off forever? The heavenly battle acts as your amulet very well. But the amulet will also reach its limit in terms of effectiveness. Venerable Mei's achievements are unrivaled and she's ruthless. I, the person who's called Ning, and Venerable Mei are not really friends and thus it is natural for Venerable Mei to be merciless and to kill willingly. Based on this point, I, the person who's called Ning, has never been lucky. Ning Wuqing laughed softly, angled himself to look at the worried Jun Moxie at the side, and shook his head. But since Supreme is so assured, why is your lover looking uneasy then? Could it be that Venerable Mei, you, have actually gotten injured? As he spoke, he muttered, "Oh," and continued, "This is weird. Now as I mention, Great Golden City had lost 17 experts at once. I think Venerable Mei is also feeling worried about this, but you actually have the capability to kill 17 current ultimate experts. Such peerless ability had truly won people's respect. I, the person who's called Ning, has no chances to gain favor at all." Jun Moxie had the look of worry and frustration. He moved forward, looking impulsive, gritted his teeth and spoke in an unrelenting manner. Great Golden City is despicable and unscrupulous, and did not leave any footprints behind. They plotted to kill Shui Yan secretly. But sadly, what goes around comes around. In the end, it had gotten itself a bad retribution, returning home defeated and in low morale. Ning Wuqing, do you really want to use the reputation of elusive land of immortal and the title of Beyond Supreme to take advantage of people during such precarious situations? Prince Jun, you have not realized that I, the respectable, have not taken advantage of people. Ning Wuqing said warmly. Old Madam is only taking advantage of the cruel at precarious times. He looked at Jun Moxie pitifully and spoke softly. Prince Jun must never forget that the gorgeous beauty in front of you is inherently a beast. Prince Jun was born a famous master, and has a bright future ahead, but yet, was bewitched by her beauty. You have truly disappointed me, the person who's called Ning. Jun Moxie's face reddened as he panicked. He stepped forward, in front of Mei Shuiyan, and opened up his arms. He spoke in exasperation. No matter what you said, I do not allow. If you dare, kill me first then. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 586. Mei Shuiyan looked around to assess the situation, and she laughed faintly. It is still the same few people. Ning Wuqing, you did not ask for help, but to depend on solely these few people. You still hope to stay as a supreme? Are you being too unrealistic? Ning Wuqing replied adequately. If it was the usual battle, these few people would have not been enough. But for now, it should suffice. Venerable Mei, I think you will not disagree with what I said. He turned around to look at Jun Moxie, and spoke gently. Prince Jun, that day at the aristocrats' hall, old Madam had showed her favoritism to you, owing you a big favor, and she took a quenching pill. At Jun family's house, Ling Mentor had also spared our lives. I, the person whose name is Ning, will remember his kindness by heart. For us, the elusive land of immortals, had never wanted to form bad ties with Ling Mentor. I, the person whose name is Ning, has some heartfelt words. Will Prince Jun be interested to listen? What words? Jun Moxie looked at him cautiously, and spoke a little nervously. You speak. Right now, he possessed an extremely anxious demeanor, looking like a young lad who had sacrificed everything to protect his lover, realistically portraying the character. Even Mei Shuiyan almost burst into laughter when she looked at him. This guy is a total brain box. He can pretend to be anything he wish, and it looks absolutely real. The prince is cultivated and came from a rich family. You own a favorable title and is definitely the heir to the throne. Based on your societal status, your family is remarkably noble, and this is beyond doubt. I can say that your future is bright and limitless, and once you are matured enough, you are definitely an exceptional and has the ability to soar high. Ning Wuqing used a sympathetic tone and said truthfully. If the prince is looking for a good match and a virtuous wife, women of exquisite beauty can be easily found on this earth once you beckoned. Why would the prince sacrifice your bright future for the Xian beast who is so different from you? There will never be a good ending. Although she appeared as beautiful as a fairy, but she is inherently a Xian beast. What do you mean? Jun Moxie was a little confused. Do you mean that I can't marry her? Will it become a sin if I marry her? It is not only a sin, but you have disappointed the ancestors of the Jun family. Ning Wuqing continued to persuade him. Prince Jun, for millions of years, we hear countless stories of Xian beast transforming into human beings. But we have never heard of a Xian beast who marries a human being. It has actually never happened before. But, if it does not happen in the past, it does not mean that it will never happen now or in the future. The things that happen are often unpredictable, but there are always plans for it. Everything is ultimately under our control. Man is the master of their own fate. Jun Moxie raised his brows. Then let the prince, myself, have the honor of creating a new history by being the first. Will this be a problem? The problem is not merely a yes-no answer, but it concerns the family's bloodline. Ning Wuqing continued in a serious tone. You must know that when a couple get married, it is natural for them to give birth and have offspring. The same applies to a married Xian beast couple, who will give birth to a Xian beast. This is the mechanism of evolution. Nobody can change it. But when a Xian beast and a human being get together, what will they reproduce? A Xian beast or a human being? To be honest, now that Venerable Mei had transformed into a human being, she is ravishingly beautiful. I am worried and also pity the people who may not be able to resist her seduction. But Prince Jun must never forget that even if she had continued to practice for another 3 million years, she is inherently a beast still, and not a human being at all. She will reproduce offspring that are possibly Xian beasts, and definitely not any normal infants. You should have gotten rid of her the sooner the better. Why are you still keeping her alive? Mei Shuiyan's face changed completely and had gone as pale and white as the snow. Her dainty self began to wobble lightly. Ning Wuqing's words was meant to cause a rift between the two, to hurt Mei Shuiyan further. However, what he had not noticed was that his words, whether it was intentional or otherwise, was precisely what Mei Shuiyan was fretting over. Although she knew that his aim was to cause a rift between them so that they would break up, and hurting her eventually, but she could not help but to be completely stunned. Ning Wuqing had always been at the losing end when it came to love and was single for his whole life. But yet, he deeply knew the essence of love. He could definitely do great harm to others. Mei Shuiyan had practiced arduously for hundreds of years and had never came across the idea of any form of intimate love. She thought that her mind and heart is as still water, determined and unwavering. But the truth was that for these people, they would be helpless once they were in love. Like the saying goes, when you set an old house on fire, you can do nothing but to only watch it burn before your very eyes. If Ning Wuqing was able to persuade Jun Moxie to leave Mei Shuiyan, even if Mei Shuiyan was not physically hurt, she will not be able to escape from being irrational and emotionally unstable. She may momentarily lose her ability to compete drastically and may even declare her own defeat before the battle. And especially now that she was severely injured. Ning Wuqing observed the color change on Mei Shuiyan's face coldly. Then, he burst with innate joy. He knew his words had hit the nail right on her head, hurting her. Do you still have anything to say? Jun Moxie calmed himself down and regained his composure. He looked at Ning Wuqing coolly, hands placed behind him. His tone was one without emotions. As a genuine piece of advice, although it is something you do not like to hear, I, the person who called himself Ning, still have to say. Prince Jun has the duty to consider carefully. You have to know that the Jun family has a strong reputation. Jun family is a noble family in Tianxiang. If people knew that the only successor is marrying a Xian beast as his wife, it might be a big joke. If you too are lucky enough, you may give birth to a child with exceptional abilities. But what is more frightening is the possibility of giving birth to a vixen or a cub after a year or so of a blissful marriage. It will highly damage Jun family's reputation and result in a disheveled state of life. Prince Jun, How are you going to face the ancestor of the Jun family? Ning Wuqing pretended to look at Jun Moxie with deep sorrow and seemed like he had already seen the problematic plight of the Jun family. He gave a long sigh. Passing down from one generation to another. Among the children and future generation, there are the three most unfilial acts, the most severe being the inability to reproduce. Prince Jun, you must think carefully before you act. If you insist on stubbornly, and it becomes a topic that people laugh about. Prince Jun, it is not that my words, the people who's called Ning, that are terrible to hear. Me, the person who's called Ning, is wholeheartedly thinking for Prince. Try asking yourself, if Prince marries the beast, how is this different from marrying your own pets and reproducing? Do you mean that I still need to get the approval of the three holy cities on who I want to marry? Jun Moxie scoffed at Ning Wuqing, coldly. Ning Wuqing, are you senile? Ning Wuqing was not angry, but he painfully sighed. Still the same old advice. Even though these words may be unpleasant, but they are beneficial to you. I am considering fully for Prince, and for the future of Jun family. Everyone knew old Madam was sincere. But even though Prince may not realize it now, or even dislikes the idea to a large extent, but you will definitely understand her pains in the future. Mei Shuiyan's body started to tremble. She gave a despondent look to Jun Moxie, and her vision went a little unclear. Ning Wuqing's words was no doubt deadly and caused a huge blow to Mei Shuiyan. She even felt her own heart, instantly broken into pieces, and her lover was leaving her step by step. Based on the words that Ning Wuqing spoke, his frosty look, and also how Jun Moxie was stiffing up, Mei Shuiyan had given up all her hopes internally. Reproducing and nurturing are blessings to people on earth. But it is unacceptable to any family on earth once you gave birth to a beast. This is completely absurd and a strange discussion. How will this be an exception to Jun family? Jun Moxie. Even before, he was purely seduced by her beauty, and there were only good feelings between the both of them. But once he understood the future possibility of the relationship, it will be difficult for Jun Moxie to make other decisions. Once a rational decision is made, it therefore meant that Mei Shuiyan could only feel a cool chill up her spine. She felt alone in the entire world. She no longer had anyone to depend on and count on. Ultimately, this was not the world which I belonged to. Still, I am a Xian beast. I should return to Tian Fa forest. Although the love had been sweet and tender, and I am terribly unwilling to give it up, but ultimately it does not belong to me. Mei Shuiyan lost her senses and her mind went completely blank, unable to defend. Jun Moxie laughed loudly. Ning Wuqing, you are right. I am moved by your reasons and advice. Mei Shuiyan opened her eyes wide in shock and glanced at him. Had he declared his stand? Only to hear Ning Wuqing said, pleasingly. Prince Jun knew how to mend his ways after realizing his errors and before it is too late. This is worth respecting and admired for. Jun Moxie shook his head, and said in a cynical manner, your thoughtful words are full of sincerity and I believe is able to touch the hearts of many people and swayed the majority. Unfortunately, you still do not understand the prince, myself, and his character. He took 2 steps back, slowly, and held out his hands. He embraced Mei Shuiyan, whose frail body was trembling, lovingly, and hugged her tightly. He spoke in his deepest voice. How could you not trust your husband? When the matter rests, I will discipline you at home. He spoke extremely fast such that it sounded stern and fierce. But Mei Shuayan, although her body was trembling, was revitalized and tenderly lay in his embrace. Her heart lightened, and she no longer felt disorientated. The embrace was as usual, warm. Suddenly, tears slowly trickled down her face, like strings of pearls. Fear lingered in her and she trembled, like her heart that seemed to experience a trauma. Aches. Jun Moxie supported Mei Shuayan's thin and frail body, very lightly and gently. He turned his head to look at Ning Wuqing, and said coldly, "Do you think that I have not understood this problem earlier than you do? I have long considered this problem. But today, your honest opinions had enlightened me and allowed me to finally set a determination." Jun Moxie gave a tender look to Mei Shuayan, who was in his embrace. He looked up and said in determination, "I am an unscrupulous loafer and a worthless prodigal son. I do not care less about humans' opinions of me. I, Jun Moxie, was never someone who regarded humans, beasts, beauty, wisdom or capability as highly important." Jun Moxie smiled proudly, and said resolutely, "What I regarded as important is true love. So what if you are a human or a beast? If there is true love, I, the prince, will care no less about the rest. As long as Shuayan can bear my child, regardless of what it is, it will be the descendant of I, Jun Moxie. If she really gave birth to a little Xian beast, then that is also my own, Jun Moxie's. I will still nurture him and take responsibility as the father." Ning Wuqing, honestly speaking, if I had a son that is as despicable as the 3 holy cities, I will rather Shuayan give birth to a rascal, so that I can at least save the energy that I wasted on anger. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 587. Ning Wuqing's face turned green and his eyes were fuming. "Jun Moxie, you are really stubborn. One fine day you will regret. Even if the Jun family is tarnished or has collapsed. Even if I give birth to a mystical beast. Ning Wuqing, what has it got to do with you?" Jun Moxie stared and asked frustratedly, "Ning Wuqing, you aren't my son nor my grandson. Why are you so worried? Are you qualified to worry? How weird. You guys are not doing what is more important and choose to worry about my family affairs. Are you so freaking bored?" Ning Wuqing's body was shaking and suddenly roared, "You are killing me with anger." "Oh, I know. I understand, Ning Wuqing. Is it because your wife has died and you are going to be single for the rest of your life, so you want everyone else to be single forever too?" Jun Moxie said critically, "But there are still a lot of normal people in this world. Everyone wants to nicely cuddle their wife under their warm blankets. There are definitely not many who are like you, who refuse their own wife and choose to visit brothels after earning money. Ning Wuqing, how are you shameless enough to say I'm unfilial and won't have any offsprings? After Mei Shuayan and I get married, even if we give birth to mystical beasts, they will take the Jun surname. But you? After you die, will you have any children carrying your surname? How pathetic. It will probably be difficult even to find a mystical beast to bury you." Ning Wuqing was so angered by Jun Moxie's words until he was shivering and his face turned pale as his eyes seemed to be raging mad. Jun Moxie continued to wrap his arm around Mei Shuayan's waist, lowered his head and adoringly pinched her little nose, and gently laughed. "Wifey, how is it? Is it satisfying for me to scold this old thing? Do you feel like you've released some anger? If you don't think it is enough, I will continue to scold. This is your hubby's specialty. Even if I'm not the best in the world, I'm definitely in the top 3. Mei Yanxue held back her tears and gently smiled as she laid her head on his chest as she used her slender fingers to draw circles on his chest gently, and softly said, "Do you mean what you said?" Jun Moxie seriously said, "If they were in any way a lie, I will be struck by lightning and thunder. I will die a terrible death. With no full." He had not finished, but his mouth was already blocked by a small soft hand with a light nice-smelling scent. He looked down and saw Mei Shuiyan's eyes filled with tears, rolling down her cheeks one by one as she looked at him deeply with her big watery eyes and said sharply, "I believe you." Jun Moxie smiled and finally relaxed. He used his forehead to lean against Mei Shuiyan's forehead and gently said, "Since you trust me, I have nothing to fear. You looked so troubled just now. My heart was aching so badly. If you leave me, I really cannot live on. Without you, what meaning is there to live?" Jun Moxie sensitively felt that Ning Wuqing's words still left deep scars in Mei Shuiyan's heart, so disregarded his own life just to dispel her worries even if it was too mushy, but women are still very willing to listen to these. Mei Shuiyan sniffed as her tears rolled down like pearls, soaking Jun Moxie's cotton top on his chest area, and whimpered, "I won't leave you." Jun Moxie was relieved, lowered his head and gently kissed her forehead. Mei Shuiyan's body shivered a bit and she lifted her head to look into Jun Moxie's eyes, then smiled while holding back her tears. They were surrounded by enemies, and yet this pair of young lovers could still lovingly stay in their own world. Ning Wuqing finally recovered and hollered, "What an overboard and shameless immoral couple. Everyone attack and eradicate these evil spirits for humankind." Jun Moxie hugged Mei Shuiyan and whispered into her crystal-like ears, "Wifey, how are you? If you haven't calmed down, go and watch by the side. Look at how your husband is going to fight this bunch of them. Don't force yourself." Mei Shuiyan chuckled and looked at him, and said, "I am not so weak. So long you don't change. How will I be beaten by others? Leaving it all to you. I will be worried." Saying those last few words, she could not help but to lower her head in embarrassment. Jun Moxie laughed out loud as he heard yelling sounds behind him together with the sound of swords slicing through the air. The two of them looked at each other and actually smiled. Two white bodies simultaneously lifted into the air and intersected, causing two blinding rays to light up. Mei Shuiyan's sword for the king and Jun Moxie's blood of Yan Huang simultaneously emerged, both swords sky high. After several sounds, the rays dimmed then lit up again while Jun Moxie's rapidly moving white shadow disappeared into the blinding ray out of the blue until the sword's ray disappeared. By then, Jun Moxie had disappeared without a trace. Mei Shuiyan moved at the speed of light and could even find the only small space amongst the thousands of aggressive swords to easily escape through just like a shapeless gust of wind. Even though she occasionally came into contact with the swords, she could easily slide past the blades. However, the sword for the king she had was not gentle at all, and it directly slaughtered throughout the way. These top-notch fighters from Xuanshi Immortal Palace all have been practicing martial arts for their entire lives with their individual specialties and very well versed in them. In fact, that day at the Jun family, they already got to witness that Mei Shuiyan's sword was a rare impressive weapon. Some of them even suffered great losses, losing not only their weapons but even an arm, resulting in a sharp decrease in their battle strength which had not recovered, leaving only half of what they had. At that moment, they saw Mei Shuiyan use the same tactics once more, and so who dared to touch her? Instantly, All their sword positions changed to become defensive, but simultaneously, they saw that it was of no use, and so one by one, they quickly retreated. Mei Yan Shui controlled the battlefield. Her white dress flew according to the wind as her sword seemed like a dragon, easily fighting in all directions. Due to her undefeatable reputation and incredible sword, everyone retreated step by step, and soon, Mei Yan Shui was able to daunt the masses alone, looking impressive. Mei Shui Yan could achieve such battle results was not only due to her great abilities and sharp weapon. It was also because there were too many people on the other side, so she did not have a specific target. Once she moved her sword, all around were enemies. All she had to do was fight. Although there were 29 top-notch experts in the Xuanshi Immoral Palace, only at most 3 to 4 of them could be fighting with Mei Shui Yan at the same time. When there were too many people, they would be hampering one another's ability to act. Ning Wuqing saw that the battle was not going well and his expression turned tensed, but he understood what was going on, and immediately yelled, "Hu Manglong, lead your 3 brothers to attack. The rest of you step aside for now. Form groups of 4 and take turns to attack. Once the situation becomes critical, act immediately. Once the second group acts, the first group must immediately step back. Those not involved, surround the battle area to prevent her from escaping. Watch for an opportunity to use your hidden weapons." Screams were heard in the battleground and most of them flew backwards, leaving only 4 people surrounding Mei Shui Yan to continue the battle. For shiny swords were like a well-knitted cloth, layer over layer, moving like a lightning through space, attacking from all 4 directions. Mei Shui Yan was in no hurry. Her body softly floated around, executing easily and with chic, not showing any signs of anxiousness despite their rotational tactic. Use your strength to fight on. Clash with her. We have the quantity advantage. Tiring her out is to our advantage. Ning Wuqing screeched from outside the battlefield. "Hu Manglong, have you become dumb? She just fought a great battle with the Supreme Gold City. She must have some serious injuries, but even if she doesn't, her core energy would have been depleted. Why aren't you attacking with your weapons? Just use your palm strength. Use your Xian strength. Force her to go all out. Deplete her energy faster. Torture her and trap her to death." Hu Manglong was an above supreme level expert of the Xuanshi Immortal Palace. The 3 who were fighting alongside him were his sworn brothers as they realized that they got along and shared similar goals after entering the Xuanshi Immortal Palace. And since then, they often trained together for nearly 100 years and have telepathy in addition to the extreme chemistry amongst one another. Just then, the 4 of them attacked simultaneously but shockingly felt restricted, astonishing the 4 of them. Although everyone knew that Mei Shui Yan was Tian Fa's top king of the beasts and had extremely strong abilities, they did not think that it would be to this extent. It has to be understood that Hu Manglong's abilities were way beyond supreme level. Although his 3 sworn brothers' abilities were not as high as his, they were definitely extremely close. 12 grades of Spirit Xian. 1 step at a time towards the top. Spirit Xian's 4th grade and below were only normal Spirit Xian. Once one reached the 5th grade, his or her abilities had a great leap and was of the supreme level. Spirit Xian's 9th grade onwards exceeded the supreme category. It was for beyond supreme level. However, if they exceed Spirit Xian's 12th grade, it was a whole new level, to become an extreme supreme. This was Mei Shui Yan's level. At this level, one was already unformidable, at the peak of the world's possible abilities. While there is an end to life, there was no end to learning martial arts. This was applicable to any world. If a martial arts genius could have an unlimited lifetime, Then no one would be able to explain clearly to what extent his practice would reach. That person need not even have to be a genius. So long one had an unlimited lifespan. Anyone could achieve incredibly strong abilities. What a pity the human's lifespan eliminated this possibility. Hu Meng Long roared and flew up, and his sword returned to its sheath. He spread open his arms, shook the surrounding with a raving palm strength. His body kept changing positions in the air and left huge imprints of his two palms across the sky, blocking the sunlight, spiraling around, then crashing down. Obviously, he listened to Ning Wuqing's words. It was not the time to be the hero. Even if he had to swap injury for injury, he was not afraid so long he could increase Mei Shuayan's internal injury. Even if it was just a bit, it would be helpful to their big plot. Under the motivation of such thought, the other three also did the same, abandoning their swords to use their palms, opening and closing, furiously sending attacks down. When the four experts acted together, they were frightening, using their extensive palm strength, forcing Supreme Mei to take advantage of her best skills. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 588. Miscalculated. Mei Shuayan heard Ning Wuqing's words and could not help but laughed. Ning Wuqing, you are such a shameless protector of the practice. You really try all means. Not counting sending so many people and trying the rotational method. You even prepared hidden weapons. Xuanshi Immortal Palace is indeed a reputable big sect. The way you guys do things are indeed open and honest. You guys even blatantly use despicable means. I really look up to you guys. As she spoke, her body lightly spun and dodged from the seamless attack. Conveniently, she swerved her sword 4 times and pushed her 4 strong opponents away one by one. Her words angered many of them. Before these people entered the Xuanshi Immortal Palace, any one of them already had years of experience in practicing martial arts, ventured around the world and were independent experts. After entering Xuanshi Immortal Palace, their abilities were furthered and their status was elevated, but in this battle, they had to come in a large number, use the rotational method and even had to prepare hidden weapons. They were ashamed. Ning Wuqing snickered. Supreme Mei, you can't trick me. This lame method of yours is useless. All of us are doing this for the rest of the world so naturally. We need to protect ourselves in preparation for the heavenly battle in the future. If we seek to be a hero and die in your hands, that would really be a waste. For the sake of the mainland's future, I, Ning Wuqing, live up to my conscience. Living up to your conscience. Mei Shuayan heaved a long sigh and suddenly loudly laughed. Not bad. Not bad. Indeed, the style of the Xuanshi Immortal Palace. Such a conscience can only be lived up to by killing you. After hearing this, before Mei Shuayan finished her words, she pulled out her sword, maneuvered it in a circle, and a bunch of bright pitahaya appeared, just like peonies at their first bloom, in all directions. One more stretch and one more circle followed, and another bunch of pitahaya flew out. Although she was holding a sword, in most people's eyes it seemed like fireworks. One bundle of sparks after another as the bright, crystal-clear pitahaya were endlessly shot out. Hu Meng Long and his 3 sworn brothers were rendered helpless and instantly were in danger, feeling extremely pathetic. Without any doubt, Ning Wuqing's shameless words have angered Mei Shuayan, and so there was no more room for kindness. At that moment, Hu Meng Long and his 3 sworn brothers could not do anything but to dodge. In their predictions, since they had already abandoned their swords to use their palms, then exactly how high was Supreme Mei's status? Why would she put herself down by using a sword to fight the empty-handed them? This was an issue of a top-notch expert's face and demeanor. If Supreme Mei also kept her sword, then the four of them would be able to find an opportunity to go on an all-out fight with her. With every second longer they held, it was a victory. Internal injuries were susceptible to violent shakes. Even if Supreme Mei was not injured, limb contact with the palm would consume the most xian and core energy, and so every bit they took from her counted. However, they miscalculated. They did not think that although the four of them kept their swords and used their palms, Mei Shuayan was not bothered by the demeanor of an expert. She continued riding on the advantage of her superior sword and attacked them furiously, breaking through the dense energy from the opponent's palms. She even scared the four of them so much that they could not wait to escape from this dangerous situation. Ning Wuqing was not wrong. If they used weapons, they could not just go all out and fought. Mei Shuayan's sword was too sharp, too impressive, and would probably slice their weapon before they could start to fight. How could they just fight all out? However, they could go all out and fight with their palms. However, she was still using her sword, which was all over the place, and so no matter how tight their palm power was, it could not withstand one slice, putting them in an even more awkward situation. Was it possible to use a palm made of flesh and blood to go all out against an extremely sharp superior sword? Won't that be seeking an even faster death? However, they did not know that when Mei Shuayan saw them abandon their swords to use their palms, she did consider to keep her sword too in order to fairly determine the battle's results. But at that moment, Mei Shuayan's ears heard a voice from Jun Moxie. No abandoning your sword. They know you are injured. This is a misunderstanding, but once you abandon your sword, they will find out the truth. Why are you so dumb? It is also beneath of their status to surround and attack you. And yet you are still mindful of your morals. Jun Moxie's voice was overbearing. However, Mei Shuayan's heart softened and followed his orders, and continued to use her sword to attack. She indeed stood a great advantage. Although it was beneath her status, it was also because of these words that the corners of her lips lifted into a sweet smile. Jun Moxie, who was in invincibility, looked down on them exceptionally. They knew that their opponent had a precious sword that could cut through gold and jade, and yet still chose to use their palms. How stupid! What status? What demeanor? Were these more important than a life? Furthermore, since Xuanshi Immortal Palace was so shameless, why should we be bothered about the morals and rules of the martial arts world? I am the rule. Supreme Mei, you are the head of TNFA, and yet you are using your sword to bully empty-handed people. How unfair. I'm feeling ashamed for you. Ning Wuqing saw what was happening and started to panic. He also did not think that Mei Shuayan would be thick-skinned and continue to use her sword as in his memory. This was not her style of doing things. Ning Wuqing. To be fair, how about a 1-versus-1 ultimate battle? Even if you send 100 people on rotation, it will still be one of me with one sword, fighting till the end. Mei Shuayan gave a cold laugh and said, "How dare you mention fairness? You only see that I am using my sword. How about you guys having 4 against me?" Ning Wuqing was speechless, and after a long while, he said, "Supreme Mei, seems like you've learned quite a bit from your little lover. However, this is just the two of you being rash and infatuated. One day you will regret it, and when that day comes, and you, the head of TNFA, is chased out by the Jun family to become an abandoned wife, don't say that I have not warned you." He had no more tricks to use, so he used this method, attempting to anger Mei Shuayan once more to create an opportunity. However, little did he know that his hurtful words really aroused Mei Shuayan's boiling desire to kill. Despicable. Mei Shuiyan's brow lifted and with a sharp sound, Pitahaya rolled continuously from her sword, just like the Yangtze River, as her attacks became fiercer. Hu Manglong and his sworn brothers started feeling afraid, secretly scolding Ning Wuqing for his horrendous idea, as by then, they no longer had the opportunity to pull out their swords. Why did he agitate her for no reason? Ning Wuqing remained shocked and unsettled. As he watched the ongoing battle, he was monitoring Jun Moxie's situation. For a crafty, experienced man in the martial arts world like him, how could he neglect any factor that could influence the future of the battle? But he still could not understand why did Jun Moxie suddenly disappear, and so out of a sudden, so unpredictable. In his mind, he clearly remembered that Jun Moxie did seem as though as he merged into one with the sword in the air, emitting thousands of light rays, but that did not attack anyone around. And yet, when the rays disappeared, Jun Moxie also disappeared. This was weird. Jun Moxie's abilities seemed to really have taken after his master. It was time to reevaluate this lad. In addition, there was a need to be careful and in defense in case he ambushed them. Hu Manglong let out a long shrill in despair. One of his brothers had been slashed once by Mei Shuiyan's unformidable sword, leaving a deep bloody wound from his shoulder to below his ribs, revealing his bones. This was under the circumstance that Mei Shuiyan could not expose too much of her strength and thus did not try her best. If she did, this barely supreme Xian practitioner would not have survived. Ning Wuqing's expression did not change and coldly ordered, "Hu Manglong, you guys step back. Next group up." Hu Manglong yelled, "I won't leave. I want to take revenge for my third brother. Leader Ning, my brother's fresh blood is still warm here. How can I leave? If I don't take my revenge, I won't give up." He clearly saw how his own brother was profusely bleeding below his ribs, his wound area totally crushed by pressure and his internal organs rushing out, while at the perimeters were cold white ribcage bones broken, leaving him in shock. Mei Shuiyan gently moved her sword, making it look harmless, but who knew that within the gentle-looking sword was filled with sword energy, not revealing its capabilities until only exploding later, completely opening that person's abdomen area, rendering him unsavable. Although he would not die immediately, there was no hope for him to live on with such a severe injury. Ning Wuqing sharply reprimanded, "Hu Manglong, I order you to step back." Hu Manglong roared towards the sky, yelled, causing his eyes to be bloodshot. He ignored Ning Wuqing's order and screamed as he charged forward. The painful death of his brother caused him to lose his sanity and acted like a crazy demon. Suddenly, the expert that had his abdomen cut open sharply yet painfully said, "Big brother and brothers, I shall take my leave first." That injured expert knew he was not far from death, but shockingly saw his big brother taking revenge for him, disregarding his own life, only crazily attacking the enemy. With his last breath, he was determined to not heal his injury but collected his remaining Xian energy, causing his body to emit black smoke. Then he howled. Without dodging or giving others a chance, he pounced towards Mei Shuiyan. He just allowed his stomach and intestines to hang outside his body as he dashed across. Although his injury was fatal, after all, he had the abilities close to a beyond supreme, and thus, when he gave his all, ignoring his own safety, his power was impressive. Mei Shuiyan's eyes froze, and with a piercing sound from her sword, it already accurately pierced through that person's heart, but yet, the person did not retreat. Instead, with his last breath, he widened his eyes, spread his arms and charged forward as though he wanted to hug Mei Shuiyan. Mei Shuiyan did not let her guard down. She flew backward, turned, flew up on one leg, then almost without any notice, kicked his chest. This then sent this already thoroughly dead body out, releasing overbearing core energy all over the place, and that person's body exploded in midair, sending blood splattering across the air. However, that person's sacrifice was not in vain, as behind Mei Shuayan, there were already 7 swords simultaneously charging towards her. The first group had not retreated, but the second group had already joined the battle. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 589. The Fight of Thunder and Hell. With limited outlook and experience, you don't know how big the world is. If I don't give you a taste of my power, you people will get more daring. Mei Shuayan chided. In an instant, she flew higher into the air and did an elegant spin. Her head faced towards the ground while her legs towards the sky. Her hand that originally held 1 sword, now held 2 as she fiercely aimed the sword towards the ground. The strike startled everyone. A siren rang without warning, and instantly, a wall of silver light appeared in front of the 7 masters. This straightaway showed them the abilities of Mei Shuayan. Although it was a simple strike made from a sword, the coverage of this technique covered the whole battlefield. At that moment, the 7 masters felt terrified. Her sword was something that they wanted to hide from, but it was not something that they could escape from. The only way to deal with it was to stake their all and go head to head with Mei Shuayan. Sacrifice a life, to take another life, was the only option. To use such a terrifying technique, a person must accumulate lots of power before they can perform. But, when it came to Mei Shuayan, whatever logic does not apply. With just a leap, she easily threw out her sword. How can this not be shocking to everyone? The 7 masters shouted and exhaled. They assembled all the energy that they could release to attack. Hu Menglong stood at the front, and instantly released all the power he had, without holding back, and dashed towards the silver wall of light. He did not wish for victory and only hoped to die with Mei Shuayan. He shouted wildly with a heart full of vengeance. Together with his sword, he dashed forward, putting the whole world at the back of his mind, and only thought about his revenge. His sword was like a shooting star, vanishing in an instant. Everyone convulsed in fear as they stare at the first astonishing move. This approach was definitely a risky move. If Mei Shuayan really had an internal injury, or if she had used up most of her energy, then this blow would determine how the fight would continue. Whether it's to run away but, no matter what, all of them had to mentally prepare themselves. They cannot be defeated when victory is just within their grasp. Everyone held their breath and focused on the event that happened in front of them. They also kept a close watch on every path that Mei Shuayan could escape from. With a thump, a long cry was heard from Hu Menglong. Together with his sword, he ran into the silver wall of light. Pop! 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 3 clear sounds were made. Hu Menglong's sword broke into 3 pieces and disintegrated into dust. His body slowly disappeared as if he was swallowed by a monster. First, his right arm, which carried the sword, vanished, followed by his head, shoulder, upper body, hip, and then feet. It was as if there was a ferocious wild beast that slowly but steadily ate Hu Menglong. Boom! The remaining 6 masters attacked together, and for once they came into contact with Mei Shuayan's sword. It was as though there was a sudden clap of thunder and millions of cold light shot through the whole field. What flew out at the same time was the bodies of the 6 masters. All of them had their flesh lacerated as blood continued to flow out of their body. The swords that were in their hands disappeared, and they cried in despair while spitting blood out of their mouth. At that moment, None of them had the demeanor of a master. They fell helplessly onto the ground, landing themselves in an ugly position. All of their energy had been used in their previous burst but only to receive a rebound of an even stronger energy. At that moment, spinning to control their landing speed was impossible, when they could not even move their fingers. After all the fighting and total victory, Mei Shuayan inevitably had to retreat. Her white robe was stained with fresh blood just like the red plums in the snow, gruesome to the eye. Her face turned from pale white to pink and with a cry, she vomited a mouthful of blood. A concurrent attack by the 7 masters was stopped by a sword of Mei Shuayan. Crash! 6 figures landed on the floor. The crowd stood still just like wooden puppets as they could not believe what they saw. The 6 masters rolled in the snow uncontrollably, leaving blood stains everywhere. Screams and groans were heard, but among the 6, 3 of them rolled over twice and never made a sound again. They had clearly passed away. Some broke their hands while others broke their leg. But, even though their hands and legs were broken, they still had a life. Some were hit with 7 to 8 swords and probably would not survive. Tian Fa Heaven's Sword. Everyone could not help but fear this sword technique. It was a skill that Tian Fa's lord used to defeat a tribe during the heavenly battle. For 10,000 years, no one had used it on humans. Until today. The hegemony of this sword made everyone's heart beat faster. A sword technique that can defeat 7 supreme masters. Such a terrifying sword technique. This is a sword technique unmatched of any other. It was such a miracle, and that miracle happened in front of their eyes. Just when everyone was being flabbergasted by what they saw. Suddenly, another silver light with a tint of blood color appeared. If Mei Shuayan's previous sword technique was like the 9th heaven sound of thunder, then this sword technique was a calling from hell. One deafening and shocking, the other quiet without any presence. A silver light shined from behind the crowd. It was hardly noticeable but yet powerful. An attack was made just when everyone was trembling from the previous attack and was still defenseless. The assassination came one after another. The precision of the timing to attack was very accurate. It would not be possible unless it was done by a top assassin. This attack was to deal with masters of a supreme level and beyond. The destroying force of it was monstrous. Conquer every obstacle. God's sword. The blood of flaming yellow. At that subtle moment, the generation of Evil Lord finally pulled out an unpredictable but powerful sword. The sword silently passed through the first master's waist, followed by another master, but this time with blood stains on it. In a blink of an eye, a 3rd master had been stabbed in the waist. The 3rd master finally made a mournful cry but suddenly stopped. What he wanted to do most was to remove the sword from his body. His hand was already on the sword, but just when he pulled it out and was ready to fly and attack, he realized that both his legs were still on the ground. What flew up was only his upper body. He was shocked and started to panic. He used his all to circulate the energy in his body, but as he started to rush, he realized that his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were gushing out from his opened body. He fell hard onto the ground. He instantly used his long sword to support himself and stood up just like a wooden stake. He stood flat on the ground. He glanced around uneasily, looking for the culprit, but could not find anything. The silver light had vanished as if it had never appeared at all. He wanted to speak, but just as he opened his mouth, he vomited out a mouthful of fresh blood, as well as his last bit of it. Being a master beyond supreme level allowed him to keep the last bit of his vitality, but as time passed and his biological essence quickly escaping, he was already on his way to death door. He let out a last sigh before collapsing onto the ground. His eyes laid wide open like a dead fish, hollowly looking forward as if he was suspicious of something. The other two supreme masters who were standing beside him instantly turned white out of fear. They subconsciously touched their waists and their face immediately became devastated. They suddenly felt a gush of warmth in their stomach, making them feel very comfortable. The warmth made them want to sleep forever and never wake up. It was a tempting invitation to the soul. This kind of comfortable feeling can only be felt when the body is bleeding a lot. Boiling fresh blood had escaped from their blood vessels and flowed towards their stomach, using their own warmth to warm their 5 viscera. This kind of extreme comfort was an omen of death. The two masters had their eyes wide opened in fear. They could not believe themselves as they looked down at their waist. The next moment, blood rushed out from their waist, escaping whatever that was blocking it. The three of them stood weirdly as blood continued to pour out of their waist like a water fountain. Even though the blood flow seemed to be thin, but it was rushing out powerfully, splattering everywhere. Red circles of blood were formed around them. There was even a stench of blood in the mist, and it was all from their body. Strange, yet magnificent red circles. With the shadow of death lingering and horrible killings happening near them, it was as if the door to hell had opened. The two masters suddenly understood what was happening and started to scream. But they did not dare to move, because once they moved, their upper body and lower body would be separated. But will their upper and lower body stay just because they did not move? After all, whatever had happened to them was irreversible. Brother. He who always had rigorous schemes and deep foresight and was always known for his calmness suddenly turned red in anger. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 590. What is true love? Even the Xuanshi Immortal Palace people did not know that amongst these 3 supreme experts whose bodies split into 2, one was Ning Wuqing's half-brother from a different mother, Qing Fengyi. Although the two of them had different surnames, they were blood siblings. Ning Wuqing spent a lot of effort on helping this brother of his to become a supreme, then to enter the Xuanshi Immortal Palace. The two of them had been together their entire lives, but no one would imagine that he would be chopped into 2, allowing life and death to separate the two of them. Close to 200 years of siblinghood had disappeared after this slash of blood. Ning Wuqing had gone insane. He hollered, "Jun Moxie! I know it is your doing. Come out. Come out if you have the guts to." He suddenly thought of Jun Moxie's secret disappearance. It had to be in preparation for this move. He hollered, "Jun Moxie! I know this is your doing. Come out. Come out if you have the guts." He recalled Jun Moxie's mysterious disappearance and thought that it had to be in preparation for this. He already knew this but still could not stop it from happening. At that moment, Ning Wuqing was filled with regret, hatred and sadness. He felt his heart clenching and his anger grow claws as though it was about to tear open his stomach, then remove all his internal organs to release his anger. "Jun Moxie! You are such a despicable bastard. Come out. You come out. You. This scumbag. Rubbish thing. You only know how to ambush us. Murderer. Executioner. You are a beast with no morals. You deserve to be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Ning Wuqing was hollering crazily without a single trace of his usual calmness in his shouting. The two experts who had also been chopped into 2 were still standing, but after swaying a bit, their eyes shone of despair and their entire face were flushed red. One of them had a squarish face with big ears and was tall. It was easy to tell that he was a handsome lad when he was younger. This was Qing Fengyi, Ning Wuqing's half-brother. Cheng Fengyi softly sighed. Slowly turned to look at his comrades, then calmly said, "I'll leave first." All of their faces expressed their sadness. He calmly looked at his own abdomen. It had stopped spurting veins but continued to pump fresh blood out gushingly and flowed down along his clothes. Beneath his feet was a puddle of thick blood. He lifted his head and said slowly with a low voice, "Take care, everyone." He then turned to look at Ning Wuqing. Ning Wuqing started shivering. He extended his shivering hands, wanting to embrace his brother but was afraid that any movement would seize the slightest chance of his brother's survival, so he did not dare to move. He extended his hands to in front of his brother yet did not dare to touch him. Cheng Fengyi looked at Ning Wuqing and suddenly, a smile emerged from the corner of lips. He forcefully held on to his last breath and then slowly said, "Brother, this life, I have relied on you entirely to bring me up and mastered a skill. My only wish is to call you my eldest brother in public. Although I can't, but I really want to, really, big brother, I have been working hard." Ning Wuqing was filled with desperation and his tears could not stop flowing. His entire body was shivering. His eyes was blurred by his tear. He shakingly said, "Brother. My blood brother. I am now announcing to the entire world that you are my blood brother. Good brother. You are also a Ning. Part of our Ning family." Cheng Fengyi smiled and satisfaction emerged on his face. His eyes gradually lost their glimmer and softly spoke. "I am going to heaven now to serve Dad and Mum. Big brother, you must live well, don't let us worry." Suddenly his body bent. His upper body fell forward heavily and Ning Wuqing dashed forward to give his body support, but Cheng Fengyi had stopped breathing and no longer had a pulse, leaving only a face filled with satisfaction. Ning Wuqing suddenly started bawling, shedding buckets of tears. Although his name, Wuqing, meant heartless and he had cut ties with so many people, destining to grow old alone, but he extremely cherished his only alive blood-related family. His younger brother's death to him was as painful as tearing his heart apart into two. "Brother, you are supposed to have the surname Ning. You are a Ning." Ning Wuqing hollered towards the sky as his heart was filled immensely with regret and hatred. All these years ever since the tragedy occurred, causing his family to change. His stepmother used her life to escape with his younger brother and his entire family was massacred. His fiancée was *ped and killed. Since then, Ning Wuqing hated everyone, including his stepmother and brother. He stubbornly thought that his stepmother could have brought his fiancée along to escape, but she only brought her son. So Ning Wuqing was unable to forgive her. Although he doted on this younger brother, he was unwilling to admit that he was part of the Ning family. Feng Chengyi knew his elder brother could not let go of his hatred and so, unwillingly took on his mother's surname. Until today then Ning Wuqing realized that he had committed a grave mistake. He always knew what his younger brother yearned for and even understood, but it was only until his younger brother died in front of him then he fulfilled his last wish. His greatest wish. However, even if he did, what use was there? Looking at Cheng Fengyi's face filled with satisfaction, Ning Wuqing suddenly felt sharp pain as though his heart was being torn apart. It was as though his salty tears had flowed into his heart. His brother's entire life. He had only been waiting for these words, but he had always stubbornly deprived him of them. Ning Wuqing suddenly felt the entire turn dark. He slowly looked up and everyone was shocked to see that the tears in his eyes were red, blood tears. Mei Shuayan was standing afar. This was the perfect moment to take action. A great opportunity to kill her enemy, but she did not. Instead, she only looked at him with sympathy. Jun Moxie also did not take action at that moment, although he knew that that moment was even better than the previous, but in face with true kinship in this world and deep remorse. Jun Moxie would give even his enemy the chance for a last farewell. This was not being traditional. This was human nature. Jun Moxie was an emotional person. He would rather give his enemy some time to mourn. However, Jun Moxie did not regret causing their life and death separation. Facing each other as enemies, it was a survival of the fittest. There was no room for regret nor empathy. If he felt empathy or even regret, that would be being too emotional and even digging his own grave. However, in face of natural human emotions, no matter how heartless this evil lord was, he would not intentionally interrupt this moment. He only quietly appeared beside Mei Shuiyan, looked at Ning Wuqing and the rest immersed in sorrow with his cold eyes. Now you are in sorrow. I can give you a chance to remorse and mourn all you want. I understand how you are feeling, so I will wait. However, when you recover, we will have a battle. I will give my all. The evil lord naturally had his own morals. Ning Wuqing rested his head on his brother's chest, gently rubbing against it as he kneeled on the ground shivering. He mumbled, "Brother, my good younger brother, Ning Fengyi. You are Ning Fengyi, always Ning Fengyi. I was wrong. It was all my fault. I deserve to die. I made you wait painfully your entire life. I have let you down. I am so sorry." Ning Wuqing said slowly, with an extremely deep voice. His initially gray hair turned silver white in that short amount of time, not leaving a single trace of color. His entire head of hair had instantly turned white. Cheng Fengyi quietly laid in his embrace with a bit of anger and regret showing on his face, but what was more was a sense of peacefulness and satisfaction. Mei Shuiyan softly sighed and said, "I didn't expect Ning Wuqing to be such a stubborn person when it comes to relationships." Jun Moxie gently asked, "Why so?" Mei Shuiyan turned to look at him and questioned, "Isn't it so?" Jun Moxie seriously said, "I believe that most people are stubborn when it comes to relationships. All have the best impressions. Even the cruelest murderers or evil and greedy assholes or rapists and prostitutes. Everyone has their own sage in their hearts. This sage's presence is true love." Jun Moxie softly sighed, releasing a tight breath and said, "True love is something everyone can only experience once in their entire life. Once this happens, it will never change. So, even playboys have their one true loves. Even the most popular prostitutes who have slept with thousands of men have that one person they will never forget. That's why so many people lose sleep at night, and that's why there are so much regrets in this world." Mei Shuiyan frowned. "This is different. How can playboys and prostitutes have true loves?" Jun Moxie laughed gently and said, "How do you know so? Playboys are the result of their environment's influence, gradually becoming such a person. Isn't prostitution an occupation for the desperates? If a lady grew up in a well-off family, without any big changes, would she have to become a prostitute? If someone grew up in poverty, never had a full meal, would he become a playboy? So, all these are a result of the circumstances." He sighed and said, "So the emperor of Tianxiang could disregard all else and massacred Yi Guhan's whole family. And Yi Guhan, for his true love, had not changed his heart till now, willing to let down the rest of the world except her. Also, my third uncle has been waiting blindlessly for his wife, and my third aunt-in-law has been living in the snow mountains for 10 years for her true love. My mother willingly allowed herself to go into a comatose for my father. All these are the result of true love. True love can make things happen, but yet, True love can also breed sins. Good people have true love, but bad people also have true love. Although Ning Wuqing's name means heartless, innately he is an emotional person, more than anyone else. If he was not so emotional and sacrificed too much, how would his heart have died? How would he stay single his entire life for a woman? How would he not let his dearest brother for hundreds of years enter his house for a woman? Ning Wuqing's heartlessness is the result of being too heartful. It is just that he is being too extreme. This story will be continued to chapter 591. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.